What's up, my fellow Freedom Fighters? My name is Francesca. I am back under the pink lights with another episode of Freedom Over Fear. Very excited for this week's guest. I met her at a conference that I recently attended, and we just connected. We hit it off super easily, and I'm excited to bring her on. She talks about things that I'm very passionate about. I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit more. But welcome to Freedom Over Fear, Heather. It's so nice to see you again.
Oh my gosh, so nice to see you. So nice to get to meet you and connect with you more. I'm
Yes,
excited to be here.
yes. So like I said, we met at a conference. I know a little bit about your background, but the audience doesn't. So tell us like where you started and kind of like what you're working on now. Because I know you wear like so many different hats. So kind of just give us a little background.
Yeah, I wear a lot of hats. I am essentially an entrepreneur. I run my own businesses. I have a background acting, voiceover artist. I've been teaching yoga, meditation, and holistic studies and life skills, and also have other businesses that I work with. And bringing it all together, Renaissance woman, I guess.
Yes,
Free spirit.
honestly, after talking to you at the conference and even a little bit before this, you really are a Renaissance woman. She's like, there's nothing that this lady doesn't do, which is so crazy. So what made you like decide to pursue like all these different avenues? Like, was there something in your life that was like, I want to just do everything, or how did that kind of happen?
You know, I was thinking about that. I'm really just letting myself be myself. I love art. I love science. I mean, I was going to go to school to be a genetic engineer and changed my degree in
Oh,
college.
wow.
Um, and then went to kinesiology and then ended up with like public relations and communications. I mean, so it always started there. And I I just always am a resourceful person and kind of what I've seen over time, I just like to play with all my different abilities and then see how I can bring them together. Because the truth is, I feel like we need to be independent in that way. And as we saw the balls drop in COVID, you got to be able to know what to pick up and what to
Yeah,
do next.
to pivot.
So
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like I can relate to this so much. I'm still younger, but I feel like I've bounced around to so many different things. People think I'm nuts because I'm like, I'm doing this and then I'm doing that and now I'm
yeah.
doing this and it's just like all over the place. But how did you like decide that you wanted to just do everything?
I was going to say, as you just said what you said, is just trust yourself. It'll come together.
Yeah.
I really just lived. I'm a free spirit. And so I've never really felt that need to conform, felt that need to like have to do something a certain way.
Yeah.
And my mother always like gave me the freedom. I was excited about what I was doing next or how I was doing it. And so I just kind of ran with it. Maybe not advisable for all people, but for me and who I am,
Yeah.
it really works.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I feel like in today's like society, the Gen Z girls are getting told like be a stay-at-home mom, go be a boss babe, do this, do that. And like what advice like could you give a younger female that is trying to like decide what like path to kind of take, like with all these outside influences kind of like trying to steer them down a certain way, like what's something you could tell them?
Well, I mean, it's like you do need to know what's important to you, right?
Right.
We do have influences around us that are good, that are mentors to us, that are people that care about us. I think there's something about taking some of that in, but then we also have to assess for ourselves where we are. Um, I will definitely say though, my if I were to say there was one area where I have regret, and I hate saying it because I'm not the person that likes to say to live in regret, and that was kind of part of my thing,
Mhm.
is really assessing like what is really important to you also in the long run. And if building a family is important, I would say you really can do both things. And things do work out. So it's like really trusting your gut and finding the right person and doing that and knowing you don't have to give up everything. I mean, I have
Right.
friends who are VPs of very large businesses, who also had children in their 20s and they're doing great. And it's possible,
Yeah.
you know.
That was gonna
Create
be my next
stability and
question.
security.
Yeah. Was, like, your thoughts on, young females, like, being a mom and also, like, being, like, top of their company or something. You think that's, like, a doable thing? Because I get a lot of differing opinions on that.
I mean, obviously, you're going to have to do it in certain ways. I think that a lot of people that are actually at certain places are able to delegate and hire people to help with certain types of activities. We don't all have that ability at some points. I know in my 20s, I didn't. I was an actress,
Yes,
trying
so
to
one of
figure
the
things
many
out.
hats that you wear.
Yeah, like
Just
working,
throw
not
it in.
working, good project, no project, kind of feast or famine at different points, and then paying my student loans. So it was a little different. I didn't come from a background or family with money. So I was also taking care of my mother this whole time. So it was a little different for me. But I think there's always a way to do it. You just have to know what you want,
Right,
and you need to create the different structures and systems around you to help you.
right, staying true to yourself. I think that's a big, big thing is nowadays, like, just looking out at the general population of, like, Gen Z females, I feel like they just don't really know themselves. Maybe they're not confident in themselves, and that's kind of why they're having a hard time, like, choosing, like, a path to kind of go down. That's just kind of what I have witnessed. I don't know
Yeah.
if you could say the same, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, does anyone really know
Yeah.
themselves? Like, at that point, I
Yeah,
would
that's
say
true.
give yourself grace, right? Like, figure that out a little bit because you grow up under your family, you go to college, and then you get told all of that stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
then you got to kind of reassess. Um, Give yourself grace.
Yeah,
You don't
what
have
is
to
all
know
of that
everything.
stuff in college?
Yeah. Oh God, we go there.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that we're told in college that may sway our opinions a lot, which kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that part of your background is more of the holistic lifestyle, which is something that I really, really enjoy and something that I've recently been getting further and further into. And I think it's just so important. And I don't think it's as talked about as it should be. I think it's kind of on the up and up now. I think it's like trending. You're more into the space, so maybe you could speak more on that. But I want to ask, like, what does holistic mean to you, just for someone that doesn't really know?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really taking care of the whole person,
Hmm.
right? And really thinking from the inside out, really getting to the root causes, doing the things that are sustainable. I mean, you can go have a glass of wine because you're stressed out, but this thing is still there, right?
Right.
It's still there. You can't push it away. It's going to come back, whether it comes back the next morning or 10 years from now if you don't deal with it. So I think just anything that can help you to really get to root causes and to create stability within yourself.
Right.
That's kind of where it comes from.
Right. Um, Someone that is like wanting to live a more holistic lifestyle, they're like, this sounds really cool. I want to look at the whole body instead of just picking out one thing over another thing. What is, would you say that there is like a political party that would kind of align with living a holistic lifestyle? Or do you think politics and voting has like nothing to do with choosing to live a holistic lifestyle? I don't know if that makes sense, but
Well, I mean, what we've seen today, right, with with the parties, is that now they're really latching on to people with certain identities, and then creating a connection to the party so that the party is then their identity.
right.
Uh, and a lot of us tended to be in those spaces at different points, right? I personally am now an independent, just a personal choice of my own because I feel like my political party is not my identity. In
Mhm.
regards to my well being and my being holistic, that's me, that's who I
Yeah.
am. Um, and I think that, like, to your question of like, well, how do you do that? It really becomes something that you're exploring, just kind of like everything else. When you start pulling in what works and seeing what works and observing, and let it become you.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very true. So you think they're more separate? One is
I think they can be. Let me tell
yeah.
you. Okay, so 15 years ago, I would have to travel across the country and either, carry the food I needed with me, or I was, bringing it with me or shipping it to where I was going. So that I had to eat what I wanted as my choices. And still to this day, I have to bring certain things with me when I go places to make sure I have the right dressing that I want because I'm gluten free. I know it's going to be like, oh, but I am. And so nowadays it's much more, I think, across the line. I think it's really, I think, something that's more accepted now across the board. I think at one time, yes, but I think a lot of things are changing overall, and there's also a lot of gravitation, just
Yeah.
happening in
Yeah.
many ways. We're
Right.
finding freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, all kinds of freedom, honestly. It's not just freedom from like communism or something. It's literally all kinds of freedom. Freedom from food, freedom from yeah. It's a lot of things.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, so
outside influence.
no, yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
So with the background that you kind of just mentioned, I'd love to get your thoughts on like big food and kind of big pharma and everything that's going on like in that space. I feel like it's so clearly evident that I want to say our government, but whoever's in charge wants us to stay sick. It's very clear that they want us to stay sick. They want us to eat bad food. And it's just like this horrible, vicious cycle. And if you're in denial of that, I feel bad for you because you should kind of open your eyes a little bit more. But what do you think about like the food production and process and how that all kind of ties together?
Sometimes it's like something might be happening at the same time and it may not have been the specific design, but then it gets taken advantage of, right? And so I don't know. I'm not the expert to know where that lies. But what I can say is that when we are in overwhelm, when we're not taking care of ourselves,
Hmm.
when we are overstressed because of that, the way the cortisols work in the body and everything else, we are definitely not in the position to have our own autonomy, and we are definitely more in the position to be swayed and controlled, basically through our minds and through social media. So the
Yeah.
more we're taking care of ourselves, literally, we have that discernment moving through us.
Yeah. So you would say it's just utmost importance to kind of focus in on yourself, your well being, and then from
Yeah.
there you can make decisions and whatnot.
It's the only thing I can control,
Yeah.
right? I
Right.
mean, there's just different aspects of things where you're like, okay, this might be good for me, this might not be good for me. I definitely am somebody who thinks about variety. If we're
Hmm.
getting into like food, it's like I'm going to make sure that like I try to eat as many organic vegetables, and what I don't,
Hmm.
you peel it off and you do what you got to do with certain types of vegetables. I look at the dirty dozen in making some of those
What's the
choices.
dirty dozen? I've never heard of this.
Oh, you've never heard of the Dirty Dozen? They do
No.
a test every year, and they call it the Dirty Dozen, and it shows just the vegetables that might have more of the residue of pesticides in them. So
Oh,
if you're like on a budget, it's very helpful to like figure out what you can eat here and what you can eat there, because it can get a little crazy
yeah.
sometimes,
Oh my
especially
gosh. It's
with
so
inflation.
overwhelming, to be honest. Like, I just went to the store the other day and I was getting like ground beef. One like pack of ground beef is like $15. And I don't have kids. I live
Yeah,
like by myself. So I'm like, imagine if I had four boys or something that needed to eat.
right, right,
How would I even feed them?
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
terrible. And I would want them to eat like good food. And even that is more expensive, you know? So it's kind of just crazy. I just feel so bad for people that have these large families right now that are having to deal with all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very difficult. I mean, you just it's pretty mind blowing. And I think we have to sometimes step back, like, well, what can I control and work from there, because some of this
Yeah.
is just so much bigger than us.
Yeah.
You have to do what you can to like get changes that you need, but then also just take care of you, control that, and then do the best you can with whatever you got.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It is. I recently visited a farm this past weekend because I'm
Yeah.
wanting to buy like half a cow. And yeah, which is
I've
cool.
been looking into that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna split a cow with a friend.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm like, all my friends, do you want to split a cow? They're like, you're crazy. No, I'm not. One day you guys are gonna be like, that girl was smart, but not right
Yeah.
now. But yeah, I was looking into buying like half a cow and like visiting. I visited 2 farms so far, and I think it's cool to like meet like the farmer and the person that is like in charge of like the meat and like the slaughtering and all that. It's just kind of interesting to see like the process and everything they kind of go through. I think it makes you appreciate like where you get the stuff from a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you've ever had very fresh meat, but we
Oh
have.
my gosh, so much better. Come on.
Oh, it's so much
Yeah.
better. And yeah, and you do want to make sure the animals are treated well. And going to the farm is just really nice. You also get to know a little more of what it was fed. And so, that's a great thing. Yeah, I'm into that too. I went years with like no eating meat.
That's
I've like had all
right.
my Buddha moments,
Gosh.
only vegan, only this, only that.
Yeah.
And for my system and my body, I just always operate better. In fact, I was told by a doctor and my Ayurvedist to eat meat. And so I had to make
Interesting.
that choice. And I feel better. I feel better that way. So
Yeah. How long were you vegan or vegetarian? You were vegan or
I did a little
both?
bit of everything.
She
There
did
was
it all.
probably, oh gosh, a couple years where I would not eat any meat. Maybe I'd only eat fish.
How did you
I was
feel on that?
pescatarian. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research. Some bodies can operate, and this is not about like your protein. It's about like amino acids and different.
Yeah, like how your body's literally made.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also conversion. I think I
Right.
read somewhere. I don't want to give a quote that is imperfect, but there's only a certain percentage that can actually only be vegan.
Mhm.
It's just we do have differences in our body.
Yeah, and I feel like people don't realize. They just don't realize that
Yeah,
all the indifferences that we have.
yeah, and protein's good for the brain. You know,
Yeah. I've been listening to so many podcasts about I don't know if you've heard of like cholesterol and how we need cholesterol.
hmm.
Are you familiar with the Weston A. Price Foundation at all?
No,
You'll
I'm
have to
not. What is
look
that?
into it. It's so great. I listen to their podcasts all the time.
Uh-huh.
The one lady I listen to, her name's Holistic Hilda. She's the best. She just teaches the Weston A. Price Foundation was this, I can't remember the name of like the founder, but he basically went around to different countries and studied different tribal groups and what they ate and how they ate. What's very interesting is when America was a little bit more prevalent, and they, as America, we just feel the need to help every other country. You want to help and, whatever. We think we're helping, but really we're not. We're giving them like all the overprocessed seed oils and the high fructose corn syrup and all that. So this, whoever the founder was, can't remember his name, when he noticed America giving like the food and everything else to these tribes, he noticed them immediately change for the worse, which is crazy.
Mhm.
So his whole thing is living off of like a tribal like kind of diet. It's not like animal based where you're just eating, meat, but you're eating just more from the land, basically.
Okay,
So
yeah,
it's
I
so
love that.
cool. Yeah. She
I love
recently
that.
did a podcast talking about cholesterol and how like it's actually important and it's such a big lie from big pharma, which is really crazy. You'll have to
It's
look at it.
yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. In Ayurveda, a lot of the conversation too is like really letting yourself eat for the season and
Yeah.
eat, so you're eating for the season, you're eating by what is available, what is harvested, what is near you. And it's kind of a good concept. But of course, yeah, we're manufacturing of food turned into like corn syrups and all these other
Oh my
things.
God. I
Not
saw a
great for us.
video.
We know that now. It's like
It's
crap.
so bad. I saw a video of how they make seed oils. I was like, this is terrible. It's basically car lubricant. That's how it starts. It's like edible car lubricant, basically. So now I'm like sad every time I eat something bad. I feel bad. I'm like, wow, I'm really eating this. It's so, no, I shouldn't be like that.
Well, okay, so I still have something about that the brain stuff, but Okay, so a friend of mine who had met the Dalai Lama, her and her partner had a situation where they were both cigarette smokers, and he grabbed her cigarettes and said, "You have to quit smoking," and he grabbed the other ones and said, "You love these." Anything that we are doing, if we are condemning ourselves as we do it, what's happening to our stress hormones?
Yeah,
We're
that's
doing a lot
true.
of things. Like it's not just heat, woo woo. We're literally releasing more stress around
Right.
and causing more stress on our organs. So it's like, if you're going to choose something, choose it. And if you're noticing it's not good for you, stop doing it. Right. And if
Yeah.
we do something now and again, like get over it. We don't have to be so, you know,
See,
we don't
yeah.
have to be so
So you're
like
not like
something.
very serious about all of that eating and stuff. Doesn't
I'm
consume your
serious about it,
life.
but I'm also not gonna make myself
Freak out.
crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
gluten free, I have to be gluten free just because I get inflammation in my body, and so it makes me feel like I was hungover, which is just not how I want to operate.
That's terrible.
I'm an energetic person. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like I don't wake up tired, and so I just want to feel good, right? So I learned very early on that, yeah, glazed donuts are freaking yummy. I remember those things, but it's not going to make me feel good, even
Yeah.
if I did it every now and again. And I've
Right.
done at a family gathering, I'm going to try that, special, cake that my grandmother used to make. And I try it and I'm like, well, one, it's not like I memorized it, but also it doesn't feel good to me. So I'm not
Right.
gonna,
Yeah.
um, you got
Yeah.
to think about that.
Right. Right. So with like, I know you have a website and it's very cool. I did a little deep diving on it. And I saw you offer like classes and things. Can you kind of speak on like what you do and like what people could maybe sign up for?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I'm shifting all that around right now as we speak. But so for years, for over 16 years, I was teaching classes live in Los Angeles, doing privates. But now
And
what
it
I'm
just so
doing
for people that don't know, it's yoga, right? Breath work,
yoga
yoga,
meditation, but
meditation.
now what I'm doing is I help really more on a coaching, group coaching, and also private coaching to help people to really assess and acknowledge where they are so that they can then, from an aspect of health and well-being, so that they can really devise a plan and activate that plan, and then they empower them along the way. The biggest thing for me, and that's why we connected so much about freedom, is the more we take care of ourselves, the more that we do these little things and have life skills, we're more connected with our intuition, that inner wisdom. So we just make better choices. Not always going to be perfect, but we're going to, reassess, adjust, and pivot. But we're not going to go years down the line doing the wrong thing.
Mhm.
We want to catch ourselves really. And so that would then result in somebody achieving all of the goals that they want to do in their life because they're feeling good, right? They're
Yeah.
feeling free. So it's kind of all ties in, and that's what I help people do. I mentor people, I help keep accountability, but I'm also giving ideas and helping them see where they are. And some of the other things, as it blends in, I just am helping them stay on track with their goals.
Yeah. Kinda like a life coach maybe, would you say? A little bit of a
I guess so. I call it mentor, more
mentor.
mentoring.
Sure.
I like it mentoring, but yeah, I guess you
Yeah.
could call it something like that. I do really work from the first thing. No matter if you want to write the book or you want to do the thing, what are you doing for your self care? What are you doing for your well being? And we kind of assess the different areas that kind of become pillars for you to look at for yourself. And
Yeah.
I it's very important to me, and I think you'll love this, is that I don't like to create a codependent relationship. I like to really empower someone so that then they can walk away and just keep doing it.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. What, I've heard a lot of things about, like, conspiracies, I guess you could call them, about how when someone is so, in tune with, like, themselves, it becomes, like, a little bit too much. It's kind of like I've heard people say, like, therapy is like a scam because you are just so in tune to yourself. You're constantly thinking about it, and you're constantly thinking about how you feel, and then in turn, it becomes, like, a negative thing. What are your, like, thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know specifically about that, but from what you're saying, that sounds horrible. Um, I mean, I have my
Yeah.
ultra human on, and that was one of the things you and I were talking about before this. It's like I'm using it to test myself for a little bit and figure something out, but I don't wear it all the time. I'm not
Yeah.
obsessed. the information. I think
I think
anything
that's
that
what it is.
we do.
People become super obsessed is kind of what I'm asking. Yeah.
No, no, you don't want to. And it's like, I say self-care, and kind of one of the things I say is like, you got to be a little bit selfish to be selfless, right? We've got to take care of
Yeah.
ourselves so we can give a ton to our families, to the things
Right.
that we love to do, and really participate in our lives and participate fully, right? Not from a place of
Yeah.
lack. But in that, we never want to be like so selfish that we're not like, a
Right.
part of the entire experience, because that's kind of
Okay.
why we're here.
Yeah, that's why I ask because I think sometimes, especially in this day and age, I think people become overly obsessed with things. For example, myself in the Aura Ring, I was like freaking out about it. I need to look at my score every day. And I think it becomes a little bit too much. So I like how you say it, like a little selfish to be selfless to give to everybody. I like that. That
Yeah.
was good.
Well, and I'll share with you, I actually, my exploration and diving into these practices, I came from the place of having eating disorder and exercise anorexia. So I totally know what it's like to get
Yeah.
so crazy,
Yeah.
and then to condemn yourself because you haven't done this. And I would say the first couple years of my life was probably just like a spiritual eating disorder, so to
Yeah.
say, right? So I
Interesting.
probably was that at one
Yeah.
point. And what I've really seen over time is like, I kind of like this like 80-20 rule, like I just try to make sure that like most of the time I'm doing all of the things. But you know what? Like we go on a road trip. Every now and again, I'm like, oh my God, we're driving and I'm exhausted. I'm going to get a Coca-Cola. I don't
Yeah.
care. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to be mad at myself. I'm not going to do that 3 times that day and for 7 days or for the next month. But one time, my body can take care of itself. That's what I
Yeah.
believe. Everybody's
Yeah.
got their own opinion.
Yeah. My body, my choice. Isn't that what they say?
Right?
Yeah.
Except for when we think you should XYZ.
Yeah, exactly. There's always some sort of backstory with that.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Um, I so we kind of talked about like the big food, big pharma a little bit. Especially like in this upcoming election, I think that plays like a very pivotal role. And like when you go to the polls and like who you're going to vote for, maybe sort of think about those things. Because I feel like sometimes people like voters don't dive deeper into these candidates and kind of see, more things. They just kind of look at the big picture instead of going a little bit deeper. I think they miss a lot of things when they're going to vote, which I think is, really important to look at. Um, what are your
Look
thoughts?
where their money is coming from. Because if there's a large
Yeah,
amount of money coming from a certain source,
exactly.
they are going to curry favor with them, unfortunately.
No, exactly. I think that's really important too, is that to look at that. And this is all public knowledge too, which is crazy. You could look to see everything online. I don't know why people don't do that. I just think maybe they don't care as much. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think we're overloaded in a lot of ways in our lives. And
Yeah.
also, we're all learning. I didn't necessarily do that. I would say probably in like the last 3 years, 4 years, I
Yeah.
started actually looking at that a little bit deeper. I was kind of aware of it probably for like the last 7, 8 years, but then I started slowly going, wait a second, I started really seeing things. And so, again, give ourselves grace.
Right. Yeah.
The world is not imperfect. Nature
Yeah.
is chaos.
Yeah. It is, honestly. But I do think it's important. People sometimes kind of pass over that. But
Yeah.
if we don't do it now as a younger person, later is just it's going to be a little too late maybe, especially
Absolutely a
now.
little too late. Yep. And I
Yeah.
would say, really even in like probably the last decade for myself, even is, look at different sources, even the source that you don't like, and
Yeah,
just
that's very important.
notice what's said, notice what's not said, notice how easily when something's not added in,
Mhm.
how it changes the entire context.
No,
And,
exactly.
um, you know, make your assessments.
Yeah. I think people don't look at both sides though, which is kind of unfortunate.
That's
Yeah.
why I am now an independent, because I
Yeah.
started looking at all the sources and I'm going,
Yeah.
this is weird.
Yeah.
Am I
I
the
would
only one? It's one thing that the media can turn things around. It's
right.
another thing to be like, do you guys not all see this?
Yeah. So you being an independent, is there a source that you kind of is like your go-to, something that you look at, just kind of look around everything?
I'm really looking around at everything.
Yeah.
And gosh, is there a source? I mean, Uh,
It's kind of hard. It's really hard these days.
it's hard because I say this person and then I say this and then I say that. And,
Yeah.
I just really kind of look around and try to, like, I will literally put the subject in and just see who else is like writing on something or who else
Yeah.
has a video about something,
What
just to kind of figure that out. But yeah, I wish I could say there's a very specific one source right now. And I would say
Yeah.
no.
Well, what's hard, I think, is because a lot of like podcasters or just like news sources in general are just kind of biased. I don't know if I've come across
Yeah,
this and maybe a little bit more
more
unbiased.
so the news, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a capitalist. I love capitalism. It's allowed so many of us to thrive in life.
Yeah.
But we also, again, where's the money coming from? Where's the sources? What are they? You have to look at that.
Hmm.
Um, but also, why I like some of the other podcasts is because they aren't beholden to that, and so they're able to say some things that maybe other people can't at this
Right.
point. So, I just take it all with a grain of salt. And then at the end of the day, take it within myself. And what feels right,
Yeah.
what feels right to me.
Yeah. Do you think it's important to be outspoken about things?
I do. I think that we need to have those conversations, especially with people that we love, whether we agree or not agree. To be able to still talk is so important. I mean, the first thing that happens, I not going to get too into it, but there's a lot of different situations and scenarios, as you can get into,
Hmm.
uh, especially in Los Angeles. And uh, these very large groups and organizations like to cut you off of everybody and get you divided and get you to hate each other. And the it's important for us all to keep talking so that we can each point out and show each other, hey, did you see this, did you see that? Because at the end of the day, it's about our relationships, not about
Right.
these outer sources telling us what to do.
Yeah. I think it's important, especially this year. I think that people would regret not being outspoken about things that are important to
Yeah.
them, you
Yep.
know?
I
Yeah.
agree.
Y-
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to kind of like tie everything together and with the show being geared a little bit more towards like the younger Gen Z population,
I
um
love that you're doing this.
yeah. I like to finish like the episodes just asking if you had 5 minutes with like a first time female voter, what is like some advice you would want to give her?
What I would say is to e- pay attention to your local elections, pay attention to your local policies,
Yeah.
because these are the things you'll have the most to take care of, especially your state, especially within
Yeah.
your own city. And then as for the rest, it kind of goes with the rest of our conversation. Look at the big picture, look
Mhm.
at different sources. You always don't have to tell everybody who you vote for. You
Yeah.
can talk to your circle of friends. You can do it however you want. Some people put it all online, some people don't. But, just, especially those of you that are out of college, some things that we learn in school are kind of in a vacuum. Look at other places that have
Mhm.
those things and those policies and see how it works,
Yeah.
and make a decision informed, really.
Yeah. I like what you said, especially looking at other countries that have policies that you are
Yeah.
wanting to maybe vote for. I think it's important to look at that too.
Very important. Or look at
Yeah.
other cities that they're trying to follow
Yeah.
different aspects of something and see, like, how's that working? How's that
Yeah.
working for you? You know,
Yeah.
and bring some common sense back in. And again, I this all wraps, which is why you and I connect so much, is that it all wraps back into the more we're here and we're super grounded. And this is
Exactly.
not in like a crazy way. It's like
No.
literally I'm breathing,
Yeah.
I'm not in stress, I'm not in fight or flight, and I take time, in nature, just to I can connect with my own self so that I can start to sense these things and notice and not be swayed and pulled in what you think you need to do,
Mhm. Yeah.
make up your own mind.
Grounding yourself every day by putting your feet on the ground of the earth for just a little bit is the best thing.
I love that you say that. Like,
Yeah.
put your feet onto the ground a little bit,
Yeah,
right? Like
walk
that just
barefoot. Dang
yeah.
it.
So important. That was literally one of my very first practices, was
Yeah.
just letting myself, because I was the kind of person that would get up and just run and go, because I had to
Yeah.
run to this audition and run to here and then go teach a yoga class. And I was like, "Oh my god,
That's just the
I
nature
feel
like
my
of
feet."
yeah. I feel like that's the nature of especially California and especially LA. We're just so crazy.
Yeah.
We
Right. And when
just
you're doing
love,
1,000 things too, like I am,
yeah,
you have to like really do that, right? There's
yeah,
actually, I don't know if you've ever looked up, but there are actually just walking meditations. It's
yeah,
actually a type of meditation that you can
yeah. I think it's important. You guys could think I'm nuts, but whatever.
no.
One day you won't. Anyways,
One day. Yep.
where can everybody find you if they would like to follow you, look at your website, whatever you got?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to email me at mentormeheather@gmail.com, I'll send you something special. And on Instagram right now, I am Heather Hudson. You can also find me under Carefree Evolution, and my website is iamheatherhudson.com. But there's going to be a lot more coming. I'm kind of in the middle of
Yes.
a bunch of projects
Remember,
that I'd
she
love to
wears
hear from.
all the hats.
I know, I know.
She's the
It's
best.
cool. It's going to be fun.
It is. It's very cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for hopping on, Heather. This has been amazing. I love your perspective of everything and just giving that more like natural, holistic, grounded. I think that is so important when you are going to vote. Not to tie it politically, but I have to. Um,
Yeah.
Most
No,
important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
Super important.
thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it.
Right on. Thank you for
Yes.
everything you're doing for everybody.
Yeah.
Ladies, you
Thanks.
got it. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one,
Thank you.
Heather. Thanks for another episode of Freedom Over Fear. Remember, this could not function without the Red Angeles Network, so check them out at redangeles.com. And remember, let's make girls girly again.